the title does not lie. I surveyed almost 400 people, 386 to be exact, because I've been seeing a lot of talk on Twitter about how Garen is this astro gliding champion that deserves to get nerfed and all yada yada yada. So I made a video on Twitter prompting the League Twitter community to really go ahead and challenge their knowledge on Garen, because I feel like half the arguments I see on the champion are things that don't even logically make sense or are omitting a lot of basic counterplay elements or things that are just like vastly untrue about Garen. And this is on top of like the things I see on a daily basis, playing him in above Masters MMR, you know, like people not itemizing versus him correctly, people using exhaust versus Garen ultimate, which does not make sense in any capacity. Like if you guys want to exhaust Garen, you do it as soon as he touches you, not when he's about to ult you. So like it's just kind of crazy. It made me, let me correct myself, it made me really question how well Twitter or the League of Legends community knows Garen. So what I did was I made a quiz, and this was a really, really cool concept. It was a really cool experiment because I got to truly see how well people got to, you know, or how well people knew Garen as a champion in League of Legends. And I basically made the quiz in a way where it challenges a player's knowledge of Garen from a counterplay perspective rather than podding the champion directly. So this quiz was more so designed to help players understand how to play against Garen rather than playing him. So let's go ahead and dive right into it, guys, okay? We got our 386 responses as of 4 p.m. today. We're going to talk about question 1. Question 1. In League of Legends, Garen's spin does bonus damage depending on where certain enemies are in his spin compared to others. This can include minions. Which enemy in Garen's spin receives the most amount of damage? I feel like this question's pretty straightforward. Nothing really hard to like misunderstand about this. It is a 100% true mechanic, but I think a lot of people do not know that Garen's, like a certain target in Garen's spin does bonus damage. So let's go and see what you guys said. The four responses were the enemy near the edge of Garen's spin, edge of Garen's blade, the closest enemy to Garen's spin epicenter, the enemy that entered Garen's spin most recently, and then the enemy who has been in Garen's spin the longest. 65.3% of you guessed that or chose that the closest enemy to Garen's spin epicenter is the one that receives the most damage. And I will say 100% right now, guys, that is the correct answer. So you guys actually passed this question. 25% of you guys said that the enemy who has been in Garen's spin the longest. Now, that is sometimes partially true because of how Garen's armor shred, you know, debuffs somebody who's been hit with 6 spins, but it doesn't mean that, like, necessarily they're going to be taking the most amount of damage. Yeah, if you get hit by, you know, 6 spins, Garen will debuff you, but it doesn't mean that that target's necessarily going to take the most amount of damage, right? So, like that answer, this response was a little bit of a misdirection there. You know, you guys had to really think this one through. But yeah, guys, like from a basic counterplay element, and if you're able to be a like tanky support, you want to be on top of Garen, because if you're separating yourself from the ADC who's the Garen's trying to focus, technically that means you can not only body block Garen, but you can also prevent that ADC from taking additional damage, because if you're closer to Garen's epicenter, that means that you're taking the bonus damage and not the ADC. So from a peeling standpoint, you guys want to keep this in mind. That's the reason why I asked this question. All right. But yeah, 65% of you guys guessed it correctly. So well done. All right, let's go ahead and move on to question number 2. Question 2. Garen's Q has what features? It can cleanse slows when cast with a micro brief immunity of slow immunity, and it sounds on hit. Garen also gains movement speed on cast. Then we have, like, it makes Garen immune to slows. It stuns on hit. Luckily, nobody answered that. So, like, 100% of you guys know that Garen doesn't have a stun. It's good. You guys got a freebie on that. I feel like the toss-up here was response 1 and response 4. Which is interesting because some people actually do believe some people actually do believe here that Garen's silence is 3 seconds. Guys, Garen's silence is 1.5 seconds. Garen's silence used to be longer than 1.5 seconds, but it's been years since that iteration. All right? From a counterplay perspective, you guys need to understand that Garen's silence is 1.5 seconds. If you get Mercury Treads, it's going to bring it down to about a 1 second duration, which is really important. If you guys are playing Fiora, you guys need to keep that in mind. Because if Garen wants to ult you, you gotta calculate for silencing. That way you know when you can hit your repost. Unless you're just gonna be spamming the hotkey, but that's not as dependable, is it? So, yeah, the correct answer here was that Garen cleanses slows, he gets a speed boost. But one thing that a lot of people I thought would miss out on, but you guys actually were pretty spot on, is that he has a micro brief window of slow immunity. I don't know if it was this answer that said that Garen silences a target for 3 seconds that gave away the obvious choice for response 1 here. But regardless, this is really important to know because I feel like there's a lot of people who will silence Garen the second he presses Q, or coincidentally, and then they realize that he can't be slow because he has that super micro brief window of slow immunity. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, 75% of you guys answered this correctly. I'm really happy. I feel like this is one of the easier questions, so well done, guys. You guys have 2 answers correct so far. 2 for 2. You guys are doing great so far. Really, really proud of this community. All right, let's go ahead and question number 3. How long of duration does Garen gain 60% tenacity when he casts W? Courage. All right. Now, this is a little surprising. So we have 68.4% of you guys who guessed 0.75 seconds, but look at the distribution of the other answers here. There's a lot of people who just didn't know. And actually, it's actually crazy because there were 44 people who actually guessed or chose 4 seconds, which is a little bit of a misdirection here because Garen's damage reduction is 4 seconds. He does not gain 4 seconds of 60% tenacity. That's kind of busted. That's what the old Garen used to have like years ago. But the actual correct answer is 0.75 seconds. That means if Garen wants to block a crowd control ability, he has to time it correctly. That means if he has W active, that means you can crowd control him if that 0.75 second window has passed. So from counterplay perspective, guys, you always want to keep that in mind. Garen is vulnerable to crowd control. He only has a very small window where he can react. And just keep that in mind, too, that if Garen's already crowd controlled, he can't use W in most instances. I think Snare is the only thing that prevents him from using W. Oh, sorry. Snare is the only thing, the only crowd control, I think, besides slows and, like, things like that, that will still allow Garen to use W. So, like, snares and slows. But any hard form of crowd control, like knock-up, stun, suppression, that prevents him from using W. So, just keep that in mind. But yeah, all right, you guys are 3 for 3 so far. Majority of you guys answered 0.75 seconds, and that is correct. All right, you guys are doing awesome so far. Like, so far, you guys are passing. Hopefully, the rest of the quiz is with passing answers. We'll find out in question 4 here. Here we go. Okay. Now, I said to myself, you know what? Maybe I'm making this quiz difficult enough as is. Let's go ahead and make a question that is almost impossible to get wrong. All right, here we go. Every quiz, every well-designed quiz should have one freebie question. And this is the freebie question. Garen's ultimate in League of Legends. Because, you know, another thing that prompted this too is because with how people use exhaust versus Garen, it made me really, like, think to myself and say, you know what? Do people even know what type of damage Garen ultimate is? Because, like, I have people exhausting me using Garen ultimate. So, like, it makes me really wonder, okay, like, is it the player not understanding what exhaust does and how it cannot reduce true damage? Or is it the player not understanding that Garen's ultimate does true damage? Well, like, which came first, the chicken or the egg? So question 4. 94.8% of you shows true damage. So that was definitely comforting for me. Like, the vast majority of you guys got this answer correct. It led me to believe that maybe the vast amount of people that chose incorrectly are people who are just trying to troll the answer or wanted to deliberately get the score down so that way you guys didn't win the quiz. What's surprising is that 12 of you voted all of the above. 6 of you said magic damage. That's part of Garen's old kit. But Garen's ultimate has never done physical damage. I don't think it's ever done physical damage in the entirety of its design in League of Legends. So for two of you who said physical damage, I don't know what you guys are on. But, it was a very spicy one. That 5% is the people on Twitter? Yeah, exactly. Thank you a lot for your wonderful commentary. All right, so question 5. Here's where things start heating back up a little bit. All right, let's talk about this. This question is a perfect representation of how to theorycraft counterplay against Garen. You are a marksman who identifies Garen as the biggest threat late game to you and winning the game. The Garen is taking Phase Rush as his primary rune paired with Stridebreaker. You have the space for one defensive item in your build. Without consideration of the rest of his team comp, which of the following items would you build versus Garen as a physical damage based ADC? So, first answer, or first response was Rainwind's Omen to reduce his critical strike damage from autos and to slow him. The next response was Frozen Heart to reduce Garen's spin count with the attack speed debuff and give yourself armor at CDR. The third response was Thornmail to reduce his healing and to deal damage back to him for his auto attacks. And the fourth response was Guardian Angel to prevent Garen from executing you. Now, thankfully, we only had, 2 people say Thornmail, which doesn't even make sense because Garen's Fin does not apply on hit. If you guys ever built Thornmail versus Garen, I assure you guys are doing it wrong. There are a good portion of players who did say Rainwind's Omen or Thornmail. In fact, over 100 people voted for this. This question was a bit of a trick question because in these answers and responses, I, the quiz creator, implied that you could reduce Garen's spin count with the attack speed debuff in League of Legends with the design of those 2 items. That is not true. So, like, not all of these responses are containing 100% factual information. Garen's spin ratio on Garen's spin ratio with attack speed cannot be altered positively or negatively by any temporary source. What that means is that if he gets temporarily debuffed, Nasus Wither, Rainwind's Omen, Frozen Heart, it doesn't impact his spin count. Rainwind's Omen doesn't reduce attack speed anymore. It's Frozen Heart. So I must correct myself there. But yeah, a lot of people guessed Frozen Heart to reduce his spin count. That is not applicable. It does not work that way. So never build Frozen Heart against Garen because you're just better off building a different armor item or the correct answer here, which would be Guardian Angel. As far as I'm aware too, for the people who did say Rainwind's Omen, Garen's spin critically striking is not affected negatively by Rainwind's Omen. I've done a bit of homework on this. There is no source that is telling me that it is impacted. So unless somebody has a source otherwise, and based off my own personal experiences, I do not believe that Rainwind's Omen impacts Garen's spin damage. So unless the Garen's going full 100% crit and you're worried about his auto attacks, you do not want to get Rainwind's Omen versus him either. I feel like Rainwind's was a dead giveaway wrong answer too, because the Garen, I stated the Garen was taking Phase Rush, and Phase Rush Garen does not care about Rainwind's slow. If Garen is trying to tower dive you and he procs Phase Rush, Rainwind's slow means absolutely nothing. So kiting him out is just not going to be a possibility. The reason why Guardian Angel is the correct answer is because if a tower is focusing Garen as he's tower diving you, and let's assume that tower is at full HP or even half for that matter, and he's ramping up tower shots, he's about to kill you, he ults you and procs Guardian Angel, that is a big problem for Garen because he can't just stand there taking another 5 to 6 tower shots while you revive, right? Because he's most likely going to be dead because it's like, what? Let's say 3, 4 to 8 tower shots on top of the DPS that you already gave him, because Garen's silence cannot stop you from auto-attacking as an EDC, right? So he has to get it back out of tower range, and that gives you the perfect opportunity to go ahead and escape. Because if he stays under tower range, he's just going to die. So in this context, if you guys want to stay alive, and in general, like, Guardian Angel is one of the best items to build versus Garen. The reason why is that for him to use his ultimate and to proc GA and put his ultimate on cooldown because Garen has no reset mechanics, it's very valuable for you because oftentimes you'll go ahead and revive and then you'll either have the opportunity to get help or Garen simply does not have enough residual damage based on the amount of CDR he has to be able to kill you after, especially if you're under tower. So if you guys are ADCs and Garen is the threat late game, invest in Guardian Angel. Do not invest in any of the other armor items. It's just not going to benefit you as much. Another item to build too is Shield Bow. I think Shield Bow is pretty valuable as well. I could have included it in the response list here, but Guardian Angel I wanted to make the clear indicator to be like a valuable item to build against him. If you guys want to get Guardian Angel and Shield Bow, then be my guest. You'll probably be invincible versus him. Yeah, definitely be my guest. All right, cool. So you guys have gotten 5 answers right so far. Again, we need a passing score for you guys to get the prize. All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to question 6 now. Approximately, what is the standard cooldown without any ability haste for Garen's W Courage at rank 1? So I felt like this was pretty easy to look up. And like what makes this quiz very easy too is that you guys can look up almost any answer here. But we'll talk more about that later. 67.2% of you guys answered 20 to 23 seconds. Now, if I was to format this quiz where 70% of you would need to choose the right answer to be able to get the it as correct, you guys would have failed this question because it would have not met that percentile. However, I'm being kind of lenient with the answers here. The vast majority of you guys voted 20 to 23 seconds, which is correct. I feel like a lot of people, especially when it comes to top lane counterplay, do not acknowledge that most champions top lane in their kit, not counting ultimates, have 1 lengthy ability and 2 relatively short cooldown abilities. This is a pretty common trend with most champion design, and oftentimes when you're trying to outplay your opponent top lane, you really have to look for these windows of exploitable weakness where you want to go ahead and punish your opponent because your opponent is not using the cooldowns properly, or they're just using it too liberally. Like a good example of this is Darius Apprehend, pretty long cooldown. Aurelia's Defiant Dance, her defensive steroid, pretty long cooldown. Garen's W, defensive steroid, 20 to 23 seconds. It's a 23-second cooldown, rank 1, right? Pretty long cooldown. A lot of champions have longer cooldowns, and like from a counterplay perspective, this is not applicable just to Garen, but it's applicable to so many different champions top lane. You guys need to understand that these windows exist, but you guys have to know like what the cooldown frame is. That way you guys can see and recognize the opportunity where you say, hey, my opponent is making a stupid play. They burn this cooldown. I can go ahead and punish them because that ability is on cooldown. Garen is one of those champions, so it's really important to know that his W cooldown, especially early game, is pretty lengthy. So, you guys are doing great so far. I'm really happy here. Let's move on to question number 7. You are a mage tasked. You guys will see some familiarity with this question. You are a mage tasked with defending a side lane versus Garen, who is deliberately split pushing. You have space in your build for 1 defensive item, assuming you already have Surats, which is commonly built by most mages, and avoid staff to penetrate as defenses. What defensive item would you choose in assisting you to help defend versus Garen tower diving you in his split? The Garen has Phase Rush and Stridebreaker and intends on diving you as soon as the cannon wave hits the tower. So I gave 4 responses here. The responses were Banshee's Veil, Randuin's Omen, Frozen Heart, and Zanya's Hourglass. So I was really happy, really happy, to find out that the vast majority of you guys voted Zanya's Hourglass. And it wasn't close either. It's good. When I made this question, I'm like, okay, please tell me that people understand how to build Hourglass versus Garen. Because one common argument that I hear, like when it comes to like, oh, Garen counterplay, is as soon as somebody brings up Zanya's versus Garen in the discussion, people will always say, oh, well, it cancels the channel, but he could just go ahead and recast it when you're out of stasis. And I'm thinking to myself, dude, it really depends on the context there. Because if Garen is taking tower shot after tower shot, he gets you critically low, he ults, you cancel the channel with your Zanya's, well, congratulations, now he's taking 3 additional tower shots. And that might be 3 tower shots too much for him to handle. This is especially true in team fights where you have backup and Garen cannot simply stand over your stasis body for the entire duration. He has to get the heck out of there. AKA, like, maybe a super fed ADC is just going to be zoning him out. So there's a lot of context. There's a lot of contextual application for where Zhonya's Hourglass is very valuable against Garen. And this doesn't apply to, like, the whole tower dive scenario. It applies to dueling, team fighting, the whole 9 yards. So, like, guys, if you guys are a mage, you guys want to build Hourglass. I really wish to iterate this point, because I won a game before I went on vacation. I don't know if I'm going to be uploading it or such, but there was a Ziggs who was deliberately defending versus my split push late game. And he had this great build. The only thing that was missing was Zhonya's Hourglass. And I was sieging his Nexus towers, and I barely killed him. And it's because he died. That's the reason why his team lost the game. If he had Zhonya's Hourglass, I would have never been able to make that play. So he lost the game because of Shopkeeper. In fact, he had a Magi Soul Stealer for some reason instead of Hourglass. Or even a Seeker's Armband to just use the stasis active. Like, he could have had that. But no, he chose the grade, and it cost him the game. So, all I'm saying, guys, is get Zhonya's Hourglass. Will it stop Garen from killing you 100% of the time? No. But there's a lot of situations where it will save your life. And that's what you shoot for in League of Legends. Okay? Alright, guys, you've answered every question correctly so far. I'm very happy to hear that people actually understand Garen and how to actually outplay him. Let's go ahead and move on to question number 8. Question number 8. You are a top laner with extensive champion pool. Oh, I love this question. Pro player level, right? Okay, in Diamond plus MMR, I could choose theoretically any top laner to take on versus Garen, who P1 blind pick the champion on the enemy team. Which of these champions, regardless of consideration for the team comp, is least effective in countering Garen? Now, this is a question that surprised me super heavily. Early on, I think the answers got better over the course of time, but the day one, the answers were really, really bad. Let's go ahead and talk about the responses here. We have 4 responses. Jax, Darius, Camille, and Kale. Now, let me tell you guys, the first few days, as I was looking over the answers, Jax was the least picked option. It was really, really weird. I think people had to go back and reread the question, because I wanted to, like, put one answer out here that was really obvious. The obvious answer, of course, right? Jax, to block Garen's Q with Counter-Strike. And you're like, think to yourself, okay, I block Garen's Q with Counter-Strike, but, like, that's not really much at the end of the day, because Garen can still spin on you. His ultimate goes through Jax's ultimate cleanly, right? Like, the only time that Jax beats a Garen is either A, he gets jungle assistance, or Jax is just that much more skilled than the Garen player. Like, versus a Jax main as a Garen main, it basically waters down to a skill matchup. But I do think that, like, if the Garen player is taking Ignite, the Garen player always has the advantage, right? Because true damage counters Jax pretty heavily because he gets a lot of bulk resistances from his ultimate. So, compared to all these other options, right? Darius has a high win rate versus Garen. Camille also historically has a high win rate versus Garen, and also has amazing outskill potential, especially after the buffs. And then Kale to kite out Garen while scaling denies ultimate heroes. Like, a late game kill is insanely difficult to deal with Garen, because not only can you deny him kill pressure on yourself, but you can use Kale's ultimate to go ahead and deny kill pressure on your teammates, right? And Garen's body language as to who he's going to kill is pretty readable. It's very, very visible and transparent, as long as you guys are paying attention in team fights. This is one of the reasons why Zilean is also very deadly versus Garen, because he can use his ultimate in the same fashion as Kale to basically deny Garen the ability to make playmaking potential, right? Darius can play it as aggressive as level 1. There's a lot of Garen players who don't understand the Darius matchup, so it's a very safe choice to pick into the Garen matchup. And then Camille, well, Camille does true damage. Camille has Cho'Gath Q, Cho'Gath ultimate on her Q. So naturally, Camille's going to be a really good counter. Jax, on the other hand, does not have enough tools to truly counter Garen. So this was really close for the first few days. It ended up surfacing that 50% of you guys, 196 of you, voted Jax. So I'm glad that over the course of time, you guys surfaced the correct answer here. So this is awesome. 8 questions right. You guys have gotten every single one correctly. Now, I think I asked 12 questions. So if I'm doing fractions correctly here, I think you guys already get a passing grade by that classification. But let's go ahead and go over the rest of the quiz here. Just for funsies, because I think that's appropriate. I can say definitely, if I can do my percentage and fractions correctly, if you guys get at least one more answer correct, you guys have passed. All right, let's go ahead and head over to question 9. All right. Garen spins on you 6 times total with his judgment E. What happens? All right, this is interesting here. I made the responses pretty spicy, but let's see what happens. Okay, so response 1. Garen gets 30% armor penetration for 4 seconds. Garen reduces your total armor by 25% for 6 seconds. Garen reduces your bonus armor by 25% for 6 seconds. Garen steals his target's armor by 10, 15, 20% based on rank for 4 seconds. 4 of you voted. 4 of you chose this answer. I don't know if you guys are getting Garen confused with Trundle, but Garen does not steal armor. So yeah, that's the thing. I think the biggest misdirection here is that 41 of you guys voted that Garen reduces bonus armor for 25% for 6 seconds. That is incorrect. 82.7% of you guys got the Pac-Man answer here. Reduces Garen reduces total armor for 25% for 6 seconds. That is the correct answer. It is your total armor. It basically works like Black Cleaver. It stacks multiplicatively on top of Black Cleaver. That's why Black Cleaver is such a good item on Garen. So if you guys are building armor versus Garen, and the Garen is building Black Cleaver, well, prepare to have basically half of your armor gone, because Garen will reduce your armor by a total of 47.5%. Which is insane, because he can amplify not only his damage versus you, but his team's damage versus you. That's why I like Garen fighting you as a tank with a ADC to back him up is devastating. So just keep that out. Keep that in mind, okay, guys? This is really, really important to keep in mind, because Garen's E is valuable. If he debuffs anybody, Garen's E is valuable no matter how you break it, because that reduction also applies to your base armor. Total armor, guys. You want to keep that in mind. Fortunately, 82% of you guys got that right, which is good. Alright, I gotta blow my nose really quickly. Okay, cool. All right. So, essentially, guys, I could say confidently you guys have passed. I'm really, really happy. You guys have passed the Garen quiz. Let's go ahead and talk. Let's go ahead and talk about the last few questions here, because basically, you guys have not gotten a single answer incorrect. Did you guys actually mess up an answer? Or mess up a question? We're going to find out in these last 3 questions. Let's go ahead and head over to the end here. Question 10. Which of the following reactions to Garen's ultimate is the most likely to cancel Garen's ultimate channel, stopping the ability from hitting you entirely? The channel hypothetically started at the 0.1 second mark in cast. Alright, here we go. This is probably the most decisive question out there. And I can say confidently, guys, that this is the one question that the majority of you guys got incorrect. So this is the one question you guys screwed up. But this is a great topic here. The 4 responses were Flash to get away from Garen, Stealth, i.e. Vain Tumble and Final Hour are using a charge of Kha'Zix's ultimate. The 3rd response was Stun him, anti-passive. And then the 4th response was Nearsight him, Brave Smokescreen, and Valor Blind. Twitch chat, do you guys know what the correct answer to this question is? Do you guys know? Let me hear from Twitch chat. What do you guys think is the correct answer to this question? Yeah. I feel like this question was tricky, but let me hear it from you guys. Let me see if Twitch chat knows the answer to this question. Is it knockup? Well, I mean, knockup's not even part of the responses, dude. So, I mean, if you have a 5th invisible answer there that's coded in invisible ink, yeah, maybe. Okay, so some of you guys actually voted stun. And I'll tell you guys why stun doesn't work. So Garen's channel is... Garen's channel is an unstoppable channel. What that means is that once he starts channeling his ultimate, it has to be canceled. It has to be canceled by one of the exceptions to Garen's ultimate that will cancel the ability, which is going to be the answer to this question. But stunning is not like stunning does not cancel Garen ultimate. Garen's ultimate can not be like casted initially. If you stun Garen, it can prevent him from casting it in general, but if he's already started the cast, if the cast has already been sequenced and buffered, stun will not stop it from completing, will not stop the completion of the channel, is what I'm trying to say. That's why I specifically said here, the channel hypothetically has started already, right? This is important for people to read because in anyone's mind who does read this properly, the channel's already starting, right? If you stun Garen, it can prevent him from starting the cast, but the cast has already been started. The correct answer to this question, guys, is near sight. Near sight is the most consistent way to stop Garen's ultimate, because of how Garen's ultimate is designed. A lot of people said that stealth was the correct answer. That is incorrect. It used to be the correct answer, but this iteration of Garen, now it no longer works. And let me explain why. So when I was an ambassador for the Garen reorg, the number one thing I advocated for was a fix to this issue, because one of the most frustrating things about casting Garen's ultimate was just having it constantly canceled by all these random bits of stealth from all these miscellaneous champions, right? Whether it be like Evelyn, Kha'Zix, just even champions walking into brushes sometimes would cancel the ultimate too. That was the frustrating part. So Riot Axe's, the primary designer, agreed with me, and what he ended up doing as part of the Garen reorg is he redesigned Garen's ultimate so any target that's marked by Garen's ultimate cast is marked with true sight. And what that means is that Garen gets true sight over the target, which means that if the champion goes into a brush, it doesn't matter. If the champion stealths, it doesn't matter. You're still going to get hit with Garen ultimate. This is why you cannot tumble to cancel Garen's ultimate anymore. You're still going to get hit by that thing. It's highly satisfying for a Garen player now. It's highly satisfying for a Garen player now, because a lot of people think that it's counterplay when it actually isn't. So, like, that's the cool part. That's the big difference with Garen's ultimate compared to Darius's ultimate, too. Like, okay, another big difference is that Darius' ultimate's got to reset. But another big difference is that Darius' ultimate does not grant true sight. So, Vayne Tumble can cancel Darius' ultimate. Vayne Tumble cannot cancel Garen ultimate. That's the cool part. Nearsighting him is the only way to stop Garen's ultimate channel. Because for some reason, true sight gets canceled out by nearsightedness. It seems a bit stupid, but that's just how the game is designed. Like, consistently, it affects a lot of other champions this way. That's just how it's designed. So, like, if you Grave Smokescreen Garen early on in the channel, or if you Valor Blind, it will stop Garen ultimate. This is how a lot of Graves players outplay Garen, because they know that this is a thing, and they'll time their smoke screen when they're about to get ulted, and it will buy the player time versus Garen, because it gives them time to not only reposition, but to basically distance himself from Garen, or giving them time to fight to basically kill Garen. So, guys, if you guys want to outplay Garen ultimate, choose a champion with nearsightedness. That is the most consistent way to cancel Garen's ultimate. Now, the second most consistent way is flashing. Like, 0.1 seconds. There is a small. Here's the thing. There is a small likelihood that you're still going to get hit with Garen ultimate, even if you flash at 0.1 seconds. The reason why is because of how the game timer works. With channeling, Garen's ultimate is very inconsistent, because there are times where you ult somebody at a certain point and they flash away, and they end up dying. And then there's other times where you go ahead and cast ultimate, they flash at the same window, and then they just don't get hit with it. Like Garen's detonation on ult, in terms of the game clock, which is something that's super invisible when it comes to like timing abilities. Like a common example of this is Darius's DOT blade. Sometimes you'll get hit with an extra stack. That's because of the invisible game timer in terms of how DOTs are calculated. This applies to Garen's ultimate too. This is the best way I can explain this. So you can technically flash at a perfect window and still get hit with Garen ultimate because of the game timer. So I think, like, realistically, nearsighting him is the most consistent thing. But sometimes if you do flash away from Garen, you will sometimes cancel his ultimate. It is not consistent. And it's not consistent for a Garen player to land the ultimate when someone's flashing away from him, but it will work sometimes. Yeah, so anyway, that's all I have to say about this, guys. This is the one question I think that you guys got wrong, I think. Yeah, pretty much. Little bit of a eye-opener for some people, but now you guys know. But yeah, anyway, I mean, to get 9 out of 10 questions right, like, that's really, really good. You guys are doing great so far. The other answer to this question, kill Garen. I mean, if that was a response, yes, killing Garen also works. Yeah, killing Garen works. Putting Garen in stasis also works too. Yeah. Love these small bits of trivia. I play Teemo, so I know that you can't blind an attack that's already been declared. Kind of makes blind hard to use in certain situations. Yeah, that's true. That's true. But also really good Teemo knowledge too. You know, I really hope other one tricks and champion mains make champion quizzes, because I feel like there's a lot to learn by like really testing one's knowledge. All right, guys, let's go to question number 11. Which of the following statements is true about Garen Q? Now, I feel like this one's a little tricky, because I made the answers kind of samey, which means that anybody taking this quiz has to really read. I know, right? Reading has to read the answers and basically figure out which of the responses is true, because a lot of them, as I said before, are similar. All right. Garen's Q is coded as an unstoppable auto attack and therefore cannot be evaded unless specifically blocked or dodged by Jaxi. And I should have worded this better, because Jaxi is an example, not the only example. Jaxi is just an example. Like, what other champions dodge abilities or auto attacks? I forget. Oh yeah, that's right. Neela. Response 2 was Garen's Q animation can be sped up while with building attack speed. And then option 3 is Garen's Q is an auto attack reset. And then option 4 is all of the above. Now, I'm really happy that 74% of you guys chose all of the above, because all of the above is correct. 21% of you guys just said that Garen's Q is an auto attack reset and did not know that Garen's Q animation can be sped up with building attack speed, or Garen's Q is code is an unstoppable auto attack. I feel like the people who answered this question with this answer are the people who play Fizz and Vladimir, because they'll try to go ahead and troll pull Garen's Q, or they'll try to go ahead and pull Garen's Q, but you can't do that anymore, because with the Garen rework, Garen's Q is an unstoppable auto attack. Now here's the real interesting thing here. I had some Garen mains personally message me about this quiz, asking what the results were, and there were a lot of Garen mains who got this question wrong, who just chose one of the responses instead of all of the above. There were a lot of Garen mains who did not know, and I won't drop any names, but like, this is important to know, but Garen's Q can actually be sped up with attack speed, right? They coded Garen's Q to be a powered auto instead of a spell ability. The biggest way you guys can understand this is how Garen takes on the Quinn mashup. Before Garen got reworked, Garen's Q could land against Quinn even if he was nearsighted or blinded. I'm sorry, not nearsighted or blinded. Or Garen's Q would land. Garen's Q would land if he was in the middle of jumping up, and Quinn would vault off of you. How Quinn's vault works is that if you vault somebody as they're about to auto attack you, I think it cancels the auto attack. But Garen's Q back then was coded as a ability. So if you landed the Q against Quinn and they tried to vault as a counter, it still get hit by the ability because it was coded as a spell. Now, with the current iteration of Garen, it's coded as an auto attack, an empowered auto. So if you vault off of Garen as he's about to land Q on you, it will cancel out the Q altogether. Because Garen's Q is considered a empowered auto, that means now it can be impacted by attack speed. So if you have a lot of attack speed, guys, you guys will notice, if you guys are paying attention, that Garen's Q animation actually gets faster. Does it get a whole heck a lot faster? No, but it slightly impacts it, and it can be impactful in certain situations. All right, so keep that in mind. But yeah, a little bit of a trick question there, actually. And I'm actually surprised. This question really tripped up a lot of Garen mains. All right, we're gonna go to the final question, guys. Here we go. What is the cooldown of Garen passive? Now, I feel like with all the Garen trivia knowledge that I had to probe you guys for with all these questions, I figured go ahead and give you guys an easy one for the final question. All right. 82% of you guys said 8 seconds, and I was really relieved to read this because I was really worried that you guys were going to screw this one up, because I feel like the common perception of Garen's passive is that, oh, it's a 3-second cooldown. It's impossible to keep Garen's passive down. But in actuality, guys, if you guys think 8 seconds in game is actually quite long, that's like the equivalency of a cooldown for one of a champion's basic abilities. Actually, many champions' basic abilities, rank 1 are 8 seconds, right? Like either someone's Q or someone's W or someone's E, right? So it's actually pretty lengthy. And that means if you constantly just go ahead and throw one auto attack versus Garen every 8 seconds, that means you're permanently keeping Garen's passive down. That's why Teemo is actually pretty effective in the Garen. I'd say for at least like pressure-wise, not saying from like counterplay, because I feel like there's better champions to counter Garen, but like for like lane pressure, Teemo can actually keep Garen on the ropes for quite a bit, because not only Teemo's DOT is good for just constantly refreshing Garen's passive cooldown timer, but if you can get an auto attack in on top of that, it pretty much forces the Garen player to take second win, because he's just never going to get his passive up. So, again, 8 seconds, that is a window of counterplay, guys. And if you guys have an auto attack advantage over Garen, you definitely want to go ahead and just trigger it every 8 seconds, because Garen having his passive down for a full minute makes a big difference. Let me tell you. All right, guys, that basically concludes the Garen quiz. The League of Legends community has answered 11 out of 12 questions correctly. So congratulations, guys. Congratulations, guys. You essentially have passed. And I'm really, really happy to share that with you guys. I'm actually surprised. I felt like at first, when I was looking back at this quiz and I published it, I'm like, dang, maybe I made this quiz too hard. But some of you guys actually did your homework, or maybe some of you guys didn't do your homework. So I did a little bit of a post-assessment here. So wrapping up, I think this quiz was really cool to go ahead and give out towards the community. So, I want to give a quick shout out to my supporters on Patreon as well. Each supporter on Patreon really helps keep the lights on as I continue content creation as a side gig. And right now I am offering several tiers in rewards for the various people who do support me financially. One of those great rewards that is the most popular is access to my exclusive Garen matchup spreadsheet, where you can see how to take on any Garen matchup by me breaking down runes, items, and giving a brief overview with each matchup as to how to approach that matchup and what to expect. You guys can get access to that for only $5 in one of my tiers on Patreon. So if you guys are interested, you guys want to help keep the lights on, be sure to visit me at patreon.com/RISTE. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great day. Good luck in solo queue. And Demacia, baby. We'll see you later.